On the agenda tonight, we're going to be having a bit of a reality check in reference to a comment that does pop up in the comment section now and again. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, tonight we are going to be having an analysis of Charlie Puth, and he's going to be singing a few songs. We've got a few performances to look at, but first of all, the background behind this request. It's a comment that does pop up now and again. Whenever we've looked at vocalists and they have been using pitch correction or auto-tune, I do say in those videos that it is impossible for a singer to sing at A440 tuning, and that's standard tuning throughout a whole song, to be stuck 2 lines. And some people say, why do you say it's impossible? It's not impossible. I know some singers that can do it, and they are that good that they can hit these lines all the time. And I try to explain to people that it's not a case of being good to hit these lines. It's impossible because of the way that the vocal cords work. And they don't get the difference, and they don't understand the difference between having something that's digitally manipulated and something that sounds like it is pitch perfect. So this is why we're looking at Charlie, and this was the example that was asked of me by the borderline aggressive comment saying, don't say nobody can do it because this guy can do it. And there have been other examples given, but just for this, we'll focus on Charlie. So we're going to have a very quick jump into his song called Lipstick. I've isolated the vocal, run it through the pitch monitoring software. We're just going to have a quick listen because you'll hopefully be able to appreciate the point that I'm about to make, but let's have a listen.
Yeah. Tell your mama and your sister you got a man, 'cause I'm your man, yeah. And lately, I've been thinking about the future. We can make it more than rumors that I'm your man, 'cause I'm your man, yeah. So you can go ahead and be selfish.
Now, I'm just going to jump in here because this is actually borderline auto-tune. And I would think that the person who is requesting this, apart from the aggressiveness in the comment that I had, being, quite insulting and all that kind of stuff, that's how I know that this is a genuine thing. That somebody is really annoyed at me saying that it's impossible when they're saying that Charlie can do it. So I checked out lots of Charlie's live performances and cross-referenced them with his studio songs as well. And, this is so heavily edited, I started to think that, well, this has got to be part of his sound. This can't be him pretending to sing and try to pull the wool over people's eyes that it's, not him really singing and he's secretly using, pitch correction and auto-tune live. And he uses auto-tune live. And this is the other thing, that I then found an interview, and this says it all really, that a fan of Charlie's hasn't seen this interview that I managed to find where Charlie's openly admitting, he says, yes, I use auto-tune live because everybody's using it nowadays and it helps me to hit the notes. So he's got absolutely no problem with using it. And I've always said about artistic use of auto-tunes, some people want that sound and they like that sound, so it's fine. They're not trying to hide anything, and in this interview he was quite clear. But obviously the fan that was talking to me hadn't seen that interview, so is maybe unaware that he's using it live and on all of his recordings. So now we're going to jump into another performance, and this is from the Howard Stern show, and Charlie's going to be performing Close to You. Now, Karen Carpenter is an artist and a vocalist that we've looked at in great detail here on the channel because she was so accurate pitch-wise. But she didn't sing on these lines. She did it naturally. So she had a great ear and ability to hit pitch. Now, when I say that, I was going to say that she was pitch perfect. And being pitch perfect and having perfect pitch are entirely different things. And I think this might be where a bit of the confusion lies with this particular artist, because Charlie has perfect pitch, which means that he can be given a note and he'll tell you what that note is without needing to go to his piano, keyboard, guitar, or any instrument. He'll be able to name it just by hearing it. And that's having perfect pitch. Now, having perfect pitch does not suddenly transform your vocal cords into a different physiological entity. You've still got normal vocal cords. So it means that you might be able to hear a note and say what that note is, but it doesn't mean you can now hit that note at A440 standard tuning perfectly to a variation of 0 cents. That is still impossible to go through a song doing that. So what people get confused with is having perfect pitch, which is just like a skill being able to hear something and tell you what it is, and then being pitch perfect. Being pitch perfect is when you're singing and the note sounds precise. It sounds exactly where it's supposed to be. And guess what? Being pitch perfect doesn't mean you're on these lines. It's something that you hear, that you don't look at. So this is why Karen Carpenter was pitch perfect. She sounded great all the time. And we know that because we can just listen to it, but we have analysed her voice in the past to see that being pitch perfect does not correlate to what pitch correction is calibrated to, which we see on screen here. So we're going to jump into this, and we will have the piano in there as well. By the way, when Charlie's performing this, I'm not saying that he's not a great musician, that he can't write great songs and isn't a great singer and all of those things. I'm saying that the person that requested this thought that he's doing this all naturally and that it is possible, and here's the proof. So, being an objective analyzer, I am just showing the proof that it's not actually true. I mean, the fact that he admits it obviously makes it a lot easier, but I'm interested to know whether Howard Stern knows what he's listening to in this performance, because you might be able to see the unit that Charlie's got next to him, and I'm assuming that's his live auto-tune unit that he's got. But he is playing keys. I think for me personally, doing an auto-tuned performance of something that Karen Carpenter did so well naturally, I don't think I'd do that, just because if I wanted to try and do it, I would want to try and do it without any manipulation of my voice, because once you're auto-tuned, you can't miss the note. I mean, if you've got a bit of singing ability, as long as you get close enough, it'll then snap it to the note exactly. So anyway, let's jump into it. I love the way that Howard, when he introduces this, he says to Charlie, "This is you performing," as if Charlie doesn't know that it's him that's about to be doing it. Let's listen.
This is you doing Close to You.
Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near?
Okay, so, I mean, straight away you can hear the auto-tune. Because it's live, you can hear the editing going on, that it's snapping to these lines, and, you know, it's perfectly... This is what auto-tune is, live. Let's listen on. Hopefully you guys will be able to hear the auto-tune, and it doesn't really register as a natural voice here.
Just like me.
You know, just like that. It's just like me. It almost sounds like it's got a different effect on it, but that's just the processing.
They long to be close to you.
It's almost like close to you. Because of the editing, because there's natural variation in a voice, pitch-wise. That's how vocal cords work. So the vocal won't always be on this line. So the auto-tune is having to adjust the vocal millisecond by millisecond. So that's why it sounds like we get this kind of, you know, phase shifting sound going on, because it is literally changing the frequency of the note to keep it where it has been programmed.
Why do stars fall down from the sky every time you walk by? Just like...
I mean, there's kind of like... Bye. It sounds more like an instrument really than the voice, but I mean, that's the point.
Me, they long to be close to you.
And you can maybe start to hear the way that holding a note normally, going you, and then applying a bit of vibrato, you won't get this constant wobbling sound of it being corrected millisecond by millisecond. So listen to this again. You can hear there's tiny wobbles that are being adjusted all the time. Have a listen to the H, or try and make out the H of hair in this phrase.
So they sprinkle on us in your hair of golden.
So here we've got this sprinkles, moon dust, sprinkle moon dust in your hair. I'm actually doing the H too much. This sounds like sprinkle moon dust in your hair. It just sounds like a note without any words, rather than sprinkle moon dust in your hair, and having all of the, the pronunciation, the enunciation, the clarity of the words get lost, because Autotune doesn't care about words, it only cares about notes. So therefore, you're not really going to get a lot of meaning in the vocal, because the words might turn into and you won't really know what the vocalist is talking about.
To create a dream come true, so they sprinkle on us in your hair of golden starlight, in your eyes of blue. That is why all the girls in town follow you all around.
So, this video both highlights the recent, or at least the modern development of Autotune for a live performance situation, because there are a few notes here that aren't being really strictly snapped, and this is all to do with onset and having a percentage above a note or below the note. But I think maybe because of Charlie's overall sound, because he always uses Autotune, then it's accepted that he's going to be using it for this. But I know that a lot of people would say, well, why do it with a Karen Carpenter vocal performance that is just standalone and is known, or at least a singer who was known for being so great with pitch and being so accurate? Why then put it through Autotune? Because it's always going to sound worse if it's being snapped to notes. But again, in that interview, Charlie said, why would I not use it? Everyone uses it and it helps me to hit the notes. So why not use something that everybody else uses in the industry to help them hit notes? Because if a note is, going, even going, which is the A4, that's the top end of the male tenor range. So why not use a machine that helps you do that? If you think that you might miss it, or you can get close to going, and you can get a bit flat of it, but you can't quite reach it, why not use a machine that will just change it for you so that you never miss a note live? And this is something I'm just thinking about all the times I've played live, and in my late teens, early 20s, 30s. I'm just trying to imagine performing knowing you're never going to miss a note vocally. I mean, for me, I don't use pitch correction, I don't use Autotune, because it's not something that artistically I want to do. I want to be able to sing all the notes, because I see it as a bit of a challenge, and I've learned to sing, so why would I not try to sing at the level of other vocalists who aren't using it, because they have great voices? So I'm thinking, imagine doing a performance and you know that you don't have to worry about being flat or sharp or controlling your voice and do all of those things while you're playing guitar or piano at the same time. So yeah, I can certainly see the attraction of it, because then you can just relax in a performance vocally because you don't have to worry about it. But for me, it's the artistic side. Artistically, it's something that I don't do. It's something that Charlie does do, and he's quite open about it. But again, this video is all about just addressing the comments that I get when people say, this guy has perfect pitch and it means that he can sing all the lines. Those two things aren't the same thing. One doesn't mean that you can do the other. Nobody can do the singing on the lines, and nobody can do this. So let's listen on.
Just like me, they long to be close to you. On the day that you were born, the angels got together and decided to create a dream come true. So they sprinkle moon dust in your hair of gold and starlight in your eyes of blue.
I mean, just listening to this the second time through, it might be the case that this sound of not getting the enunciation, it might be because it might be quite high in Charlie's head voice, in his range, so he struggles to sprinkle moon dust in your hair. He might struggle to do that because he's right at the top of his kind of head voice range there. I don't know. It doesn't sound like he is at the top of his range, so yeah, it might just be the auto-tune thing.
That is why all the girls in town follow you all around. Just like me, they long to be close to you. Just like me, they long to be close to you.
My favorite part right here.
Ooh, close to you. Ooh, close to you. Oh, close to you. Close to you.
My God, I guess that's what it is to go to a Charlie Puth concert. I just want to sit and watch you do this all day.
And there we have it. So the reason that I asked that question at the beginning, whether Howard takes this all into consideration, he knows that it's auto-tuned. So at the end saying, oh wow, it's amazing, I could watch you do this all day. Does he know that the vocal, what he's hearing, isn't the actual sound coming out of Charlie's mouth? I mean, it'd be so interesting. It's a shame that there's no way ever of hearing the actual vocal of where the notes actually fell. So there's something else that I have to address. This performance that I found of Charlie seemingly coming up with a song on the spot, just kind of busking it out, and it just happens to turn into something. But let's just watch this.
I don't know how this is going to end up, but...
So this is, totally impromptu at a gig.
Let's get to the fun part. It's going to be interesting.
Looks like quite a big gig.
Let's do this like I'm back at home in the studio, recording into my phone. What if there was a song that had a snare drum, CJ, that's like sharp, like... Repeat.
And this video has this, I think, TikTok loading thing. I'm not watching it from TikTok. This is from YouTube. So somebody's uploaded it with the loading.
Okay. Exactly. Now, Phil, can there be like a bass that goes like... Yeah, can you do it again? Like... Okay.
I have to say that my suspicions were aroused at this point because he says, can we get a bass that is kind of like this? And he doesn't give a notes reference point, but the keyboard player plays on his keyboard, na na. So he's playing an octave. He's now given a definite key to this piece.
Okay.
But you could say that just might be random.
We're missing the kick drum, just like something like that. Is that good? Yeah. Okay. The last thing we need is something pretty, like a piano. Play that on a harp or something.
Ooh, we actually got a bit of a live vocal there that wasn't auto-tuned, and I guarantee you that was not at A440. Definitely not. That was, just a normal pitch of a vocal, and definitely wasn't on lines.
Let that ride out for a second. Hey. Take the drums out. Hey. All right, let me...
And now we've got a vocal in the background that's Charlie's voice, but he's coming up with this on the fly. So how's his own voice coming out of a speaker? It's really weird.
Try something.
Yeah. I got my hand, got up and ran out to the park.
And now there's a backing track of his voice coming up with the vocal over the top of what he's just done. And his actual live vocal's really low in the mix. So this is all pre-recorded.
Parking lot. Don't understand, what are you saying? I don't know what you want. Why do you always put on a show? Where are you going now? Baby, come back inside. I just wanna be close to you. You don't know what I'm going.
And the whole band, bass, keys, guitar, have all made the change to the correct chord without Charlie telling them what's going on. Now, the reason that I do find this particularly cringeworthy is the pretense that it's all being... Obviously, it looks more impressive to people that don't know about music to have maybe come up with something so organically, and for the band to magically know that all of the changes of the chords that are coming up. This is why it doesn't sit very well with me, because I know that this is all manufactured and manipulated to make it seem like it's something that it's not. The equivalent would be for me to turn up at Charlie's gig and say, okay guys, give me a beat, and I'll give a little riff for them to play, and they're playing that, and then I say, okay, let's go, and we go into the song, and then I change to an E flat major 7th chord. The guys aren't going to know that I'm about to do that, so they're going to keep looping whatever chord we started on. It could be any chord, it could be a C, and they're playing that in 4/4, keeping the rhythm going. I suddenly change to an E flat major 7th. There's no way that they can follow. There's no way that they can do this, that they know the next chords, if it is purely an impromptu thing. So this is where, for me, this is all a little bit, it doesn't sit well with me, because it's pretending to do something when you're not doing it, and especially having it all pre-recorded on a backing track, having the vocal auto-tuned, all that kind of stuff. And for the whole band, I mean, it's actually I do find it quite funny, because when you're watching this and thinking that all of these chord changes are off the cuff, and they're all they're all going to the same chord magically. The bassist is going to the root note of each chord magically, and the guitarist just happens to be going to that same chord, as well as Charlie on keys. Yeah, so anyway, I guess the problem is, or at least the people that he's playing to, I know that he's got a young audience, and if they're not musicians, and especially I suppose if they haven't been around for a long time, they won't know how it works. So the songs that they've heard, they might think that this is genuinely coming up with something off the cuff, but I guess it's all getting a little bit blurred now as to what's reality and what isn't. And I think this is why we've got this massive disconnect in the industry between artists and musicians who were around 30 or 40 years ago that know that this isn't true and it's not possible. But then you've got the more modern and younger generation who think that this is amazing, and they'll say, oh, those artists 30 or 40 years ago couldn't come up with something like this off the cuff. They had to rehearse it first. Nothing's ever changed. If you want to do something well, and if musicians want to play with each other, and unless you're just playing a blues or something like that, and you say, right, let's do a 12-bar blues in E minor, for example, then everyone knows the format. If you're a musician, you can then jam along. And great jazz players can do that as well. But if you're talking about coming up with a new song that is literally you don't know where anybody's going, this is impossible. And musicians know this, but the audience don't know it. So this is why it is taking a bit of a liberty with the audience, pretending you're doing something when musicians know you're not doing that. So why pretend to do it? Especially because there's the risk that somebody like me will get a request to look at a video, and I'm going to point out exactly what's happening. So yeah, for me artistically, this is just a little bit kind of past that line of pretending. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!